Welcome everyone to a podcast with Lucian and Tripledot. We're here to discuss life at Tripledot, and I'm sure you all know it much better than I do. So we'll start off with some basic introductions. If we start with yourself, would you like to tell everyone, who you are, what you do here, and what you're passionate about?
Sure. I'm Pav. I'm part of the product team here at Tripledot, and I am passionate about puzzles, crosswords, and food.
Oh, food, yes.
Yes.
Andriy.
Yeah, I'm Andriy. I'm VP of Creative here at Tripledot. My passions are innovation in the industry we're working as well, in music, movies, and beer.
There.
Hi, I'm Jan. I'm the VP of Growth. I look after the user acquisition team, the marketing art team, and the marketing technologies team. And I guess I just like solving difficult problems.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm Kaz, VP of Game Engineering here in Tripledot. Super cliche, work in gaming, passionate about games. But that's what it is. Yeah, I've been doing this for a while. That keeps me going.
Favorite game? Set yourself up now.
Oh my God, too many to mention. Final Fantasy VII, probably one of the early ones. Simon the Viking, if you're 40, you will know what it is. Yeah, too many to name. But yeah, I've been playing everything. Was a competitive StarCraft player for a while, so did it all.
Sorry, you got extra questions there. Sorry.
Nah, no worries, no worries. I stepped into it.
So we'll go over our first introduction. So you want to learn more about what it's like at Tripledot, right? So we've got some of the best people here. So let's start with collaboration and team dynamics. Obviously, you have separate teams. So how do different teams, between marketing, development, art, how do you differ? How do you collaborate to deliver the results? Who wants to start with this one?
Yeah, you go.
All right. So yeah, I mean, we do have the representatives of each of these individual departments on the couches today. So whether it's direct or indirect, I think we do tend to have a very wide range of communication around the teams. In my case, specifically marketing, I think the most common place I'll communicate with is the product team. So in this case, it will be with Pav, and we'll go over all the different intricacies of the differences between what we do, obviously, and how user acquisition inputs into product and how the product evaluates the user acquisition. But it does happen on a very frequent basis, I think, and it allows us really to get the best out of our games.
Nice. And is there anything particularly you do in your team that you think helps with that?
I think from day one, everyone has a specific mindset towards collaboration between teams. It's not, we succeed together and we fail together. And I don't mean that within the marketing team. I do mean that broadly speaking in Tripledot. So the idea that you have to understand what's happening in the products and have a very good understanding in general around how the product team operates is fundamental to us really being able to collaborate between these two specific teams.
Thank you for that. I guess we can go to art. Be my favorite department. No bias.
Yeah, I think art is mostly collaborating with products when delivering various features. It's really interesting to see different point of views, like how product sees a feature, how art sees a feature, and how they can meet together, speak the same language. It can be challenging sometimes, but I think with time we're doing a better job in this. Also I think when product and art is in the same room, they're thinking about how to make it. Art will bring you to the table. We can do this nice animation here. Product will think about it. Okay, this can actually improve how user will feel about the particular feature, and that's where that kind of collaboration sparks and brings joy.
And I'll go to you now, Kaz. Did you?
Yeah, sure.
Wanted some maths?
Sure. Yeah, obviously. I was hoping to be last, but it's okay. Yeah, no. So I work with the engineering, and as people might know, it's a very interesting bunch of people. We have various different characters. I think that the communication in engineering is something that we work on quite a lot because I'm sure that it's across all of the department, but like we have a tendency of pulling in all those introverts, all those kind of not necessarily super eager to talk to other people talents. Like the happiest place for an engineer is okay with dim lighting and keyboard and that screen in front of us. But communication is key, so we do quite a lot of it. And engineering is in an interesting place in Tripledot, especially because we're kind of the glue that holds everything together. Right, a product comes up with an idea, the artists come up with a vision, marketing, user acquisition. All of those teams will have an input where the product needs to go. Someone has to put it in together in the end. So like communication, effective communication is key. And we're trying our best. Some days better, some days worse. Some communication, some conversations are super easy. Some are really hard because they're technical. Not everyone is involved. But it's like a secondary passion to an engineer to be really, really good at communication. And we're trying to make sure that we reach the table with everyone else when we bring our input to it and try to kind of push the product forward. But yeah, as Andriy said, it's definitely not always easy. But it's like Jan mentions, like it's a challenge, right? For us, it's solving the technical problems because we do it every day, every hour comes easier. Sometimes understanding what it is that we need to do and what the art teams want comes harder for us. So like the communication is super crucial. And yeah, you learn a lot while you're working on the communication, especially between teams. Right? Talking with engineers, super easy. It's kind of like bleep and blobs. Everyone knows what's happening. Talking with the different departments, it's a skill that you have to learn over time. And I think that's why kind of like the career progression naturally progresses in that direction. The longer you've been doing it, the less you focus on the engineering, the more you're focusing on effective communication because it can bring value to the business.
100%. No, definitely. Do you feel like it's different between like engineers and art then, how you have to communicate? Because obviously the stereotype is that art, the speakers and then engineers, not so much.
I think it's quite similar actually. Art and engineers, it's very, very similar personalities. But in art you have like, I think lots of variety of people, like, some who understand really well, the product vision, some that want just to do amazing art, that's all they care about. But we also have a really nice link between dev and art, which is tech artists. Yeah. Then we can translate some of the things, some of the
middle ground.
Yeah, middle ground.
Yes. It's the go-in-between translator.
Yeah. And even though I said I come to you first, I come to you last.
Great, love that. As you've heard, I guess everyone's given a little intro to product, but we're basically the ones that go and annoy every department.
Oh, right.
I don't think anyone's saying we love working with products, unfortunately.
I know. Actually.
We do.
But
On the good days.
I think for us, communication is key, just because we need everyone to buy in the vision that we're trying to, produce, let's say. So I think it's making, obviously we have the company goals and then we have the team goals. So I think it's just making sure, within our team, I work on the cards team and we've got, 5, 6 different departments within that one team, all working on the same few games. And, when we're rolling out a new feature or when there's a change of scope, you need to just make sure that everyone buys into that. And so it's up to us to basically, make it as clear as possible as to why we're doing it and why that would go in line with the company goals.
Yeah.
And that's what I think, when there's miscommunication there, sometimes you just don't get the trust of the team. And so I think that's what's possibly the most important thing for us, is to be able to break down, our jobs are mainly data and working on the roadmap based on that. And so it's being able, a lot of the team, don't necessarily care about the data. So it's about making it interesting enough so that they get what's happening. But, obviously any idea is, okay, we can build this cool feature I saw in a different game. We're like, yeah, sure. But that doesn't make sense with what we need for the product right now. So I think it's just finding that balance and making sure that everyone trusts the roadmap that you're building. So I think that's probably the biggest communication kind of issue that we find.
It might be an issue, but do you still find there's a way you do it in studio that maybe works well for yourselves?
Yeah, as I said, it's just making sure that whenever we're talking about a roadmap, the team is fully aligned with what and why we're doing it. And also, if there's suddenly a change of scope last minute, not just we're doing this because, but these are the reasons why we need to change this scope. And why we're kind of messing with everyone's timeline. If they've been working on one project for X amount of time, you know, it's frustrating if suddenly last minute someone comes in and says, no, stop that, work on this. So that's why it's key, those moments.
I think it's also quite clear during the hiring process per se. I think the company positions itself very clearly in terms of what are the goals of the company and how much we care about the data. And, you know, even if you read anything on any of the websites or the articles about the company, it's far and foremost data oriented. So therefore, I think there's always an expectation set around kind of how we approach that and why we care about it so much.
Like one thing to add here, which I actually find fascinating about Tripledot, that it kind of works the way it is as a unique selling point or a unique trait, is how open with data the company is. Like I work with a lot of the companies, and we have various degrees of how much data we share, like revenue numbers. Yeah, maybe like user acquisition numbers. Probably not so much with the development team. In Tripledot, it's full transparency. We share everything because it just makes it so much easier to build that kind of communication line that Pav mentioned, right? It's like if you do not have complete data set, when someone comes to you and tells you, we have to do this thing, and you don't necessarily understand where it's coming from, it's a lot harder. So like I've been fascinated because like I came from EA, Activision. Sharing information was considered a no-no because if people know too much, they will be like, wow, okay, why are we doing this, right? Whereas in here, it actually works, which is great for me because then it makes my life easier when I talk with my teams. But I also think that it kind of helps people learn, right? It's like if you're an engineer in the gaming industry and everyone tells you data is king, data is everyone, because that's the general consensus, right? Like if you don't follow the data, you're doing it wrong. In here, you have access to it, which is super great. So yeah, I'm stoked to be here.
It sounds like people like data.
No, I agree. I think it's just making it digestible.
Yeah.
If you suddenly show like 20 charts and tables, people are like, I don't care. So it's just making it, you know.
Some people want a spreadsheet, some people want a pie chart, some people want however else you can present.
Exactly. And kind of from the user experience, another important thing is, you know, if the team's been working on an amazing feature for ages and it's beautiful and it plays great, and then we roll it out to the users and it just doesn't work. This is obviously devastating for everyone who put like, you know, blood, sweat and tears into it. And this is, you know, key to kind of give a breakdown afterwards. Like we're de-scoping this, not because it wasn't great, but these are the reasons why it didn't work for our users.
Yeah, actually, Tripledot is the place where I started to understand those charts. Before I could not understand what's going on, why. Like here, it's quite clear.
Yeah, they're doing the right job then. Basically, it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, the next part we were going to touch on was kind of communication styles between teams and how they do differ, right? We have covered a little bit of that here and how different teams do. Obviously, have different ways of communicating, whether it be through the data. Yeah. What about through the art team? How do you have to, you know, communicate with other teams where people maybe not as creative, but you need to put forward?
Well, I think first of all, you have also a different way to communicate with each individual in your department because they have, you know, different needs, different visions, different opinions. You know, art has each of the people have so many opinions. And need to kind of deal with that. Of course, you know, with product, we found a couple of tools as well, like, you know, when we, you know, it's data driven. So how we can, you know, utilize some of the tools to test our art and bring some initial numbers at least and see if that can help to communicate with product better. And I think with time, we get in there. On the other hand, you know, as Pav said, like, communicating this information, how we're doing, what we're doing, then it needs to be also digested by the art team. And so we try to reiterate that information, you know, kind of art language as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I think the most important thing is like, you know, how we can find ways to communicate to other teams in an efficient way and sell our ideas as well. So because we need to sell our ideas as well.
What about on the marketing, engineering side? Is there anything that you think specifically at Tripledot that you do effectively, which helps with communication stuff?
I think so. With marketing, parts of the marketing team is also the marketing creative team. So the art that we do for marketing, which kind of lies separately. And so I relate very much to what Andriy was talking about, and also the individual approach to each individual artist or person in that specific team. And in reality, across the board, I don't think it really changes much team to team. I think everyone has, you have to have a different approach, and you have to understand what motivates every single person in your team to really get the most out of them. So I think that is actually something that is more similar across the teams, that at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want everyone to produce the best work they can whilst being enjoying what they do at Tripledot. And I think that's exactly what we aim to do.
Just before you speak, obviously, Kaz, in terms of the people that are listening, obviously, is there anything that you think people can take away in terms of how Tripledot communicates? Obviously, I'm not aware. Can anyone say anything to anyone in the teams, or do colleagues have to come to your leads and then your leads to your directors, or is it just a free flow? If you want to ask a question to another team.
Let me try to address that one. I think in my team it's really interesting, because I think we have the layer, right? Like we have mid-level engineers, senior engineers, then we have leads, then we have directors, then we have me, then we have our CTO. So there is quite a few layers. And one would think that there will be communication blocks and barriers in between. But we actually found that if you input them into the system, it's like, okay, you talk to your lead, and I'm gonna only listen to your lead. It just impacts creativity and progress very negatively. It's like inhibiting communication makes no sense. We're trying to make sure that our devs can specialize, can find their little niche. If they need to find a solution, if they would have to go 3 ladders up the chain to get something that they need to finish their task, which honestly, their lead might not be a specialist in, right? So they might not have someone directly who understands what they need to finish. Like it just would have a very negative impact on productivity and on creativity as well, right? Which we want from programmers as well. So we have a pretty clear policy. If you have a problem and you know who can help you, just go to that person, grab them, ask them for help, and they'll hopefully be there. If they won't have time, they will tell you politely, sorry, I can't do this right now. Can you talk with my manager because I have my schedule full? But most of the time, it's a very direct approach. Like it's healthier as well, right? Like if you know where to go, but you have this kind of artificial chain of communication, chain of command, it just doesn't feel okay. It doesn't feel like you're a part of a team. So we definitely do not want that.
Yeah, the standard that you assume, right? And I guess this is one of the nice things, because we want to learn about life of Tripledot, right? Is that the same across other teams, or just some teams that work better to have that layer in?
I need to, sometimes I need to push this, you necessarily don't have to go to your manager, or just go directly to me if you have a problem, or, you need to answer fast and things like that. So initially push that communication stuff.
And is there ever a time in any department where you don't agree with that and it doesn't work, or is it always just the way Tripledot works?
Honestly, can't think of a situation where it wouldn't work.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yes,
I think it's very important in general. I know that there are some businesses where you are not able to speak to somebody that's above your seniority level, or who's assigned to you, and just this whole concept I don't think works well in general. And I think again, I'd like to understand where this whole culture comes from. And in our case, our CEO, Lior, he's very open about, if you have an issue, obviously you can speak to your manager, but if you want to, you can speak to me directly. And I think that creates a lot of trust with the employees, and therefore everyone can really have an idea, and therefore we come up with the best solutions to any challenge.
And then you avoid any Chinese whispers, right? You might communicate with someone and they communicate it slightly differently.
Oh yeah,
it helps with that. No, 100%. So is there anything else you want to touch on there, or are we all right to move on?
I think we're good.
Good.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next topic we want to go over is leadership style, obviously with 4 leaders here, and how different teams work at Tripledot specifically, right? And how maybe you think it's normal right? Because you've been working here for a while, but how do you maybe think it is different to maybe with somewhere else where you've worked or other industry standards? So how do you as leaders balance the strategic goals of the company with day-to-day operational challenges? And trying to make it as specific as you can. So obviously, Tripledot itself and how you work. As I'm starting with you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was getting ready to jump in anyways. It's an interesting one, right? It's like marrying the business objective with your day-to-day is easy if you're kind of at our level senior manager, because you see the business objective on a day-to-day basis. Like if something shifts, you see that immediately. Making sure that your teams have an impact on the business objective while they're doing their one-on like normal day-to-day objectives. I think that's the important thing, where we work really hard to make sure that that translates, right? So as Pav mentioned, like making sure that everyone is on board so they understand where the business is going, what the objectives are, so they can make their own decisions. And sometimes, like, we're all humans, we can say, we need you to deliver this to reach this objective, and then an artist or an engineer or someone in marketing will, I don't think that this is the right thing to do. We could do this. This will benefit the objectives, and then they go there, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know, from my side, and it might be just me, because I work predominantly with engineers who by now probably most of them know the coding better than I do, because I haven't been hands-on programming at the scale at least for quite a while. You have to learn to trust the people who are doing the work. So what I do is I go and tell them what the objectives are, what are the problems that we're trying to address, and how I feel they could be solved. But I'm also not going to be there with, like, the hat of, I know exactly what needs to be done. And it's more of a, guys, this is a problem we're trying to solve. Those are our ideas. What do you think about them? Do you think that those are the right things to do? What's your feedback? Do you think that I should be going back and talking with Pav, Andriy, or Jan, or anyone else to that matter, and have a conversation of, this isn't the right approach, that we should be doing something else, right? So it's a two-way street for sure, right? We do not have top-down management, even though sometimes it can look like that, right? Because the ideas definitely start at the top, because we have a day-to-day access to the data, but we try to translate it to the bottom, and then it kind of bounces back up to us, and we try to balance that interaction. There are times where the market pushes our hand into a specific direction, right? And then we have to focus on a specific metric or a specific goal and objective. But more often than not, we try to at least keep the conversation going. So yeah, that's how it works in engineering. At least, and I know that, like, with art, because we communicate quite frequently when we deliver, it's at least that communication between those two departments is there for sure.
It definitely sounds like there's a lot of communication between departments without having to use some sort of middleman, basically, between them. Obviously, you've got products and you communicate with all teams. So potentially on this question, more aimed and targeted at yourselves. Is there a time where there is set goals or deliverables, but there is a way that Tripledot works that allows you to have a bit of flexibility and freedom when it comes to, what's realistic and what works for the teams?
Yeah, I mean, it has to happen, right? Because we can't predict new changes. If suddenly Google changes their policy or Apple does whatever, like we have to jump on it. And naturally, I think, we need to have a roadmap in place, whether it's mid to long term. People need to be aware of it so that everyone has context as where we're going. Naturally, things fly in from everywhere, but having a roadmap at least allows us to say, okay, does this agree? Is this something that we can ignore? Because it doesn't really, follow where we're trying to get anyway. And I think this is the way we can kind of filter the path, really. Is it going to affect, if we have a top line user or revenue goal? Usually if you align it to that, it's pretty clear as to if it's an important thing to stop everything and move to now, or if it can be delayed.
And I guess on the situation, like it says here, on a day-to-day, right? Every day is different. You never know what you're going to come into. How does it work at Tripledot specifically? Is there like syncs on a daily basis? Do you even need them? Can you just do it on the spot? Like, when those challenges arises and you need to suddenly, get together and speak, you need to speak to the half of it, you need to speak to product. How does it work?
When those things happen, like, we're quite well reactive at that point. I think what helps specifically in my department is I have this small team of art directors, tech art directors who they know all the goals, they see more and more day-to-day stuff, and we communicate basically daily. It's important to align them first, and then they will try to do the same with the teams. But yeah, it happens many times. Like anyone from my department just comes to me, I have this problem. Let's sort it out. I can ask my art director to look into this, or if I have time, I can jump on it as well. So it's really, I would say, really easy going from that side.
So is it fair to say that a reason why you probably don't run into kind of this issue because you don't have that set in stone, you need to speak to this person before this, you can be exactly reactive, right? If something comes in one day
and then my team that reports directly to me is very aligned on everything that happens, so they can help me.
Okay. And is there anything on the marketing side that you think ever, I mean, again, I don't want to feel like you're repeating yourself at all.
No, I guess it's a bit easier on the marketing side because a lot of the company goals, often are tied to spend or revenue, and we're at the forefront of it, so we get to see it. So the team is very aligned on, what are the overarching goals, and we understand whether we're there or not very early on. So it's a little bit different because it doesn't require much communication because we're just in the data there, ready to react as fast as possible. And the point is we need to react as fast as possible. If something is not going the way we would like it to, we need to make sure we understand where it comes from.
Waiting for 4 different people to speak.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think that's across the business. Just people are allowed to react, and I think we all give everyone the trust that is required for them to make the best judgment, and then we can evaluate it as we go.
Love that. And then obviously, kind of moving on from that, because I feel like we've kind of touched quite a lot of the points there, and I don't want you to repeat yourselves. It'd be nice to learn a little bit more about your own personal leadership journeys then. So, as Tripledot's grown, how has your approach to leadership evolved to meet the demands of a larger organization? Be that a personal development or a team development. Would you like to start us off on the art side?
Yeah. So sorry. Journey on Tripledot is very interesting because it's the first time I ever had such a big team. There's almost 40 people. Before Tripledot, I managed a team of 4 basically. So this was a really interesting change, and it changed a lot my approach as well. Before Tripledot, I guess I was more, trying to be hands-on, trying to think about all the solutions myself. It's not that I didn't trust the team, but I just felt there was big responsibility on me. I still feel it, but one thing I learned is that you really need to have this trusted circle of people who can really help you day to day with the tasks, and trust them. You can, as Kaz mentioned previously, you can tell them, I think this is what we can do, but come back to me with the solutions. And the more they grow, they do the same with their teams. The more this culture, people grow that way.
Did you think it's changed you as a leader at all?
Sorry?
Did you think it's changed you as a leader at all?
I think I changed a lot since I'm here. Hopefully in a better way.
I'll ask them later when it's
Yeah.
Is there any particular story or progression that you've made during Tripledot that you feel like evolved and helped meet the demands of the business? Sorry.
I mean, my whole journey and story of leadership in Tripledot is really that. I mean, I joined as an analyst to this company 6 years ago, and was given the trust to really develop as a leader. And I now have 47 people within my umbrella. And I think what's really important, especially as a young leader that might not have experience previously in managing a team, is first of all, you have to learn very fast, and you have to be willing to make mistakes. And I think what's very common, and I definitely went through that, is you question yourself for whether you're the right person, whether you should be in this position. And the faster you can admit to yourself that somebody gave you this trust, you are allowed to make mistakes, and you're gonna learn how to get through it, and then adjust to what the business needs, whilst kind of accepting the fact that you're not gonna always be right, and you're gonna make mistakes along the way. I think is key to really developing. And I think I had to learn that and especially the first, I would say, year or two of me being a manager, it really required me to really step back and think about myself and understand, how to approach it. And I think the second thing is, when I joined, I was 14th. It was a tiny company, really, and you as a leader also change for the needs of the business based on how big the business is, and it really changes, right? So in order to adapt to really be the leader you need to be for the size of the business and for where the business is going, again, it requires a lot of kind of self-reflection and being able to admit to yourself that maybe, what you were doing a year or two ago is not the right approach anymore, and you really need to reevaluate how to go about it. And finally, just being able to speak to your peers about these issues and grow. And I think, I definitely spent a lot of time reaching out to leaders across Tripledot to really make sure that I'm also aligning myself in the correct way. Was very important. So yeah, I mean, for anyone that's listening and is in that same position, it's okay to doubt yourself, and you just have to progress and use everyone as much as you can to help you get there.
Well, trust, isn't it? Because imagine what you do. Manage 5 people, it's completely different than manage 40.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So a lot of autonomy is expected from those people, right?
Absolutely.
Straight to you. What about on the engineering?
Yeah, so I also have a big team. I'm not gonna be saying how many people because it's absurd. It's so I've been managing engineering teams for a while now. I think it's like 8 years. Various sizes. This is the biggest team I've ever managed. But like it's what I find, and it's not just Tripledot. I think it's every time you switch an environment or even just switch a team when you manage. As a leader, you kind of have to switch your mindset and adapt, because like being a good leader doesn't mean doing the things that you've been doing through your career. Being a good leader means learning what are the things you need to do to help your team perform better, and that changes depending on who you manage, depending on what their needs are, right? So whether you're switching a team within the same organization, or you're going to a different company, or you're scaling up, as Jan just said, like you will have to change the way you approach it. And for myself, the most surprising thing that I found out is just how wrong I usually am with my first instinct of what I need to do to help my team, right? Like I joined Tripledot like 2.5 years ago, I think now. And for the first year, my impact on my teams was minimal, because I was trying the things that I thought I need to do to help them. I obviously didn't know them yet, right? It's a lot of new people, new faces to know. The first year was probably one of the lower performing. And it's like, as Jan mentioned, like I've been doing this for a while. So joining a new company, being given the trust of a really big team, crucial for company success as well, right? And trying to do your best and then seeing that most of your efforts fall short and they don't deliver what you would expect them to deliver, that's tough. That's something that I think we rarely tell aspiring managers or aspiring leaders. It's like, you will fail most of the time, and because you're the leader, people will look up to you and they won't help you. They will judge you for the things that you do wrong, right? It's like the most rewarding job, because you work with a lot of people. But even though you work with a lot of people, it can be the loneliest job as well, because you very rarely get that feedback. There is that kind of almost forced distance between you and your teams. And this is kind of what helps me personally, right? And now I feel a little bit more comfortable with Tripledot and with my team. So I think it kind of reverberates a little bit better. I'm trying to build that openness, because through my career as a manager, as a leader, I found that like the only way to be a good leader is to empower and kind of encourage people that you lead and you manage to tell you what works and what doesn't. If you will try to get that from some proxy numbers, you know what? Yeah, maybe it'll work, but most of the time it will be just that approximation of what works, right? So like encouraging people to have that open conversation, to literally tell my developers to, you know what, ignore your lead. If something that I said bothers you, don't complain to them. They probably cannot do anything about it. Come directly to me, tell you what bothered you. We'll have a conversation about it. I want to hear it, because I have no idea that I might have said something that upset you. Right? And if you cannot address that, over a longer period of time, that will create more and more of that distance. So what Tripledot helped me relearn kind of in a way is exactly that. It's like different people need different things. Kind of banking on your previous experiences is a great kind of jumping off point, but you have to take into consideration that those teams will be very different. Open up, talk with them, see what they need, and try to add value that way. Because otherwise, yeah, you'll go home and feel like, oh my God, why am I even there? What value might have been? So it's a great job, by the way. Don't get me wrong, but it's those are some of the
developed you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew massively. It's just one of those things that nobody ever talks about. When you kind of talk, oh, do you want to be a manager? But then you go and talk with your peers. It's like, oh yeah, no, man, I get you. Everyone goes through. It's like, why didn't you tell me before, right? So it's a surprising funny fact, and I try to share it with people as much as I can because it's like it's one of those paradoxes. It's like,
I don't think anyone's saying management's easy. Definitely not. Obviously, there's challenges, right?
Yeah.
But you're there to deal with them, right? You've got the systems in place or the process in place to deal with them. On products front, you knew it was coming.
I knew it was coming. Yay.
How have you grown in terms of Tripledot, and how have you grown to meet the growth?
Yeah, I'd say so. I joined about 5 years ago, so things were a lot smaller. And then I think my idea was I need to be the best at this, and that's what will show people where they're supposed to be. And I think what I've learned over time is that that's actually not what good management is. Good management is ensuring that you give enough, responsibility, you empower people enough, and you support them on their growth. I think a sign of good manager is that actually, if they're better at you, they're better at the job than you are. But yeah, I think what I've learned is that I just need to make sure that people have the room to find their own way, to support them, but not too much, because people need to make mistakes. People need to realize how to grow. So it's, giving enough distance, but giving a framework in which they need to grow. And obviously, naturally, as the company grows, it means structured one-to-ones, structured feedback, all of these things, clear KPIs where they need to work for. I think these are career framework, progression. These are things, that have been essential when we've grown. Otherwise it just becomes a bit of a madhouse.
And Dora, I'm not going to put this question just on you. What would be, I'm not saying at all that anyone would want to, but if obviously we're discussing life at Tripledot, what would be one thing that you've learned as a manager that you would take somewhere else and be like putting it in place because of how it worked here? Bit of a tough one, but it gives a bit of an idea in terms of maybe what's worked here and how you've developed and how basically you think it should be done elsewhere, basically.
For me, I think it's over communication. And I think one thing that definitely I've learned is that I like to say yes to everything. Sure, I can do it. Yeah, I'll do that, and I'll figure out a way to do it. And actually that helps no one, because if you suddenly say, you're never going to deliver something great if you've got X amount of things that you're doing. And I think that also setting realistic expectations is essential, because if you're like, yeah, we're going to go live with this in a month, and then you get to 1 month, it would have been a lot easier if you just told 2 months and they would have been like, oh, that's a bit slower than we thought, but okay. But rather than delaying things, I think, for me, it's just really kind of being realistic, not over promising, and almost kind of over communication, just making sure that everyone's aligned all the time. Even if I don't know, I think this is something not necessarily, being a manager, but to anyone that's joining, I say, please ask as many questions as possible. Ask me to explain it to you like you're a 2-year-old, just so that there's no miscommunication as what's expected.
Don't make an assumption.
Don't make an assumption. And also don't sit there in silence trying to figure it out yourself. So just, everyone's open if you don't know anything.
Like if I had an issue, obviously I'm not working here, but if I had an issue, I feel like I could speak to anyone, basically, and I get an answer from the right person. That's
Exactly. Easier said than done, though. But when you're joining, you kind of feel like, oh no, maybe I'm supposed to know this or do this. And I think that's
Yeah, no, 100%. It aligns with the question we kind of mentioned before about like how you basically manage the goals, but be realistic on your day-to-day basis, right? You don't just wait till a week later and then you go, oh yeah, it's absolutely not possible.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. And obviously, like I said, I wanted to ask just to yourself, what would be one thing you take away, or just like a sentence or two that you've changed because of Tripledot, basically?
No, it's what really learned here well. It's I think trusting people, like because leadership team trusted me. I want my team to feel the same. It really helps them to to develop, to do better, to grow. So I think this is the biggest thing for me.
And yourself, anything that specifically Tripledot's done for yourself?
That was going to be mine.
Sorry, man.
I'll take that one as well.
But the reality is, because it also sounds maybe somewhat obvious that you should trust your team and you should give everyone responsibility. But I think the extent in which it happens in Tripledot, and I assume it's across all teams, but I can speak specifically to my team. Anyone that enters the user acquisition team gets responsibilities from day one, and the responsibilities are objectively very large.
Yeah.
And you get trust. You're allowed to make mistakes, and you grow with it. And I think that really develops kind of the understanding of how much you can do and how much we can grow. And that really, I think that's what really spearheaded the growth of the company to start with, is just the amount of trust the employees have across the board.
Anything specifically?
Never trust any engineers. Kidding, obviously. Not gonna go for the same. I think it is fairly universal. I think for me, the thing that I'll take away, maybe not completely new. I used to do that when I was slightly younger and a little bit more, let's say my ego was a little bit higher than it is right now. Back then I was doing that because of ego. Now I learned a little bit more how to do this productively. Is disagree with people when you feel that something isn't right. Don't feel like if someone who you're reporting to says something, you just have to deliver. It's okay to say, I don't think that this is the right thing to do. The amount of times in here in Tripledot when I wasn't the person saying that, because that was just not my character, but I was in a meeting when people just felt comfortable disagreeing with their peers, with their colleagues, with their managers, and saying, I don't think that this is the right thing. Are you sure? Why are we doing that? Can you please explain it to me a little bit better? And now I'm doing the same thing. It's like, if I don't agree with something, or if I just have an inkling feeling that maybe I don't understand it, it's fine to say that. Just bring it up as soon as you can. It's like, I'm sorry, like we can do this, but I don't understand why we're doing this. Can you help me understand? Because maybe there is a better way of doing that. Is probably the best question you can ask in a meeting. Like, you will come up not only understanding better what's expected of you, but also maybe you would have discussed a new approach to it that would be easier, faster, and less painful for everyone to deliver. So definitely taking it to my next job.
Not that that'd be anytime soon, because there's no reason to leave.
No.
Okay, love that. Obviously, we kind of touched on the topic a little bit here in terms of what advice you'd give. And I feel like a lot of what you've said there would probably what advice you'd give to those people in leadership positions. What about people that may be looking at Tripledot as a company? What advice would you give to them? Maybe they're starting off in the industry, or they are just moving between roles. What advice would you give to someone, if they were to speak to a manager or hiring manager in the industry right now? So a bit to Tripledot, obviously.
Are we allowed to swear? I'll do it anyways. I would say cut the bullshit.
Yep.
Do not try to pretend you know things that you don't know. To try to package things and which, when it's not true, really get to the point. Make sure that you're very honest and open, and just keep improving as you go. Because I think we've obviously done a lot of interviews, especially across the years, and I think any one of us, I believe, the first thing you see is if somebody's just purely lying to your face, or just trying to kind of conceive a point that exactly. So just be yourself. Go with what you know. If you think you don't know enough, then study, try to get more of it, try to learn more, but don't try to package things if they're not there.
So is there anything specific for any team, maybe on the product side?
I think I kind of mentioned it before.
Yeah.
It's just admit when you don't know.
Yeah.
It just makes it easier for everyone.
So from your own development as well, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah,
said
I've learned the hard way. Say you don't know.
And yeah, no, it's definitely fair advice. Anything specific on the art side?
Yeah, I agree on all of this.
I agree,
but specifically on our side, I would say it's very important to also understand what kind of games we're doing, why we're doing them.
Yep.
Because with art, it's very challenging. You know, at least not for now. You're not coming here to create the next World of Warcraft or things like that. But there's lots of creativity within what we are doing. You need to embrace it. You need to understand it. And also embrace the innovation as well, which helps us a lot in the last couple.
The reason you make it look satisfying and feel good, right?
Yeah. There are many ways you can do it in other ways. So.
And anything to an engineer?
I think it's not dissimilar to the art team. It's like gaming industry is as wide as it can get, right? Like you then work on amazing games in AAA and ship the best quality in the world, or you can work for, super hyper casual one-click games, and they have absolutely different challenges, absolutely different career progressions. What I would encourage people to ask themselves a question is this the right place for you? Is that the type of game that I want to work for? And the reason why I'm saying that is a big part of our interview is not really technical. It's important. Obviously, we check you on your technical skills when you're applying to Tripledot. But even during the technical interview, we look at your excitement, at your passion, at your drive, right? Like, it is so obvious when someone tries to join the company and it's like, I don't really want to work on those games, but I'm kind of going to apply to this position. If you're an amazing engineer, yeah, we might offer you the job. But if there'll be another candidate who is half as good at technical as you are, but they're passionate about the type of games we do, we'll probably bring them on board. So it's kind of like a mix of everything. Be honest with yourself. Don't bullshit to us. And like, if you feel that this is the right place for you, show your best self. I don't need you to be a wizard. Like the ages of the star developer are long beyond us, I'm hoping. Like everyone has learned the hard lesson that like if you're the solo star developer, you cannot carry a company that's bigger than 5 people, right? Like this is a team sport. If everyone is pulling in the same direction, we get there. If one strong person is pulling in the opposite, we'll just be fighting all the time. So fit and alignment with the company goals and the company objectives is very, very important for us. And it will also make it easier for a prospective candidate to progress in the career, right? Like if you're going to a company that you're really excited to be at, that energy will translate to how people see you and how people find out work with you. And they'll help you, they'll push you with them. So that's super important for us.
Thank you for that. And, to kind of wrap up on final thoughts, obviously that's from the candidate point of view, maybe potentially not to leaders. Again, you may have touched on some of these topics before, but, as the industry is evolving, right, you see these trends up and down, whether we're growing or shrinking, depending on the needs of the business. Is there any important skills that you think a leader or a manager should know even now coming into the industry that you think would be beneficial? It's a tough one, I think.
I think just adaptability. I think being flexible to changes and, being agile around pushing out work. Said in the worst possible language ever. I think adaptability is key for me. Things change, ideas change, company goals change, and just, obviously, I think Kaz made a very good point, is disagree with the things that you disagree and question why. But, once that's been resolved, get on with it and figure out the, solution to the problem.
I think for me, hiring, how you hire is really key to the success, especially when it comes to these growth periods. And one thing that I've definitely learned over time is, and I learned myself at business school, and I completely disagree with, is this culture fit. for a business, that you have to fit within the culture, and this is a vague term that nobody really knows exactly what they mean. And what often happens is that kind of just feeds to a bias of you hire people that you like, or that you think it will be easy to work with in a very specific scenario or in a very specific kind of way. And in reality, what makes teams stronger is if you get diversity, if you get different personalities, if you really see how they work together. And I've seen it within Tripledot a lot. That's where you really get the results that you want. And so the fit culture is basically, as long as you are a decent human being, everything else is on the table, and you might be the right person for the job.
No, definitely. And you kind of said it at the start of the podcast before we recorded. Was it we're all from different countries here? 3 different countries, is it? 3 and 4?
Yeah,
almost all.
Yeah.
We're always winning from Poland, but, no, but it's funny that you said that, because when we interview, our culture fit interview is we're looking for people who are actually fitting into the bits that we're missing, right? So the culture fit for us isn't, will I go have a beer with you? No, that I don't care, right?
And that's paying.
Not even that. Yeah. Come on, it's again, we have plenty of developers who don't drink, who play. Everyone has a different hobby. I'm not going to judge you on your hobbies. That's not why you're here. What I'm trying to build is a team that will be, pushing in the same direction and reinforcing each other's weaknesses and strengths, right? So bringing someone with that missing puzzle is so much more important than bringing someone who has exactly the same skill as the 20 other, guys in my team. Immediately we have this covered already, right? So how many engineers do you need to screw in a light bulb? The light bulb is in, hire someone who can take it out when it's broken, right? So this is what we're screening for culture.
Is it fair to say that you think culture fit is more on the manager? Not to decide, is in terms of to make them fit, basically. To Tripledot basically go, you're not going to not fit the business. It's how we can make you fit, basically.
I actually feel that we're, as a company, and this is another strength in Tripledot, I actually think. We're all adults, and we are able to work with people who will not have the same opinion as we do.
Yep.
And we consider this a strength. So my job is not to make other people fit culturally. My job is to reinforce them and help them champion the things that they want to champion, right? Because if you encourage people to do the things that they themselves believe bring the most value, they will push way harder and they will bring a lot more value. So my job as a manager is to make sure that everyone feels safe doing that, even if there are some people who might not necessarily agree with them in their own right. It's building that environment in which the quietest voice in my team can, at the end of the meeting, say, but why won't we do it this way? It would be so much simpler, right? And then give them the floor, let them explain, and back them with it, right? Make sure that nobody else jumps on them immediately. So this is, I think, and this is also the challenge in management, right? Especially nowadays, with teams being more interdisciplinary, multicultural, being able to build that protective bubble where people can bring their best selves to work is where my work is on a day-to-day basis.
Is there any closing thoughts, Thor?
They said everything. I don't know.
Tripledot. We're hiring.
We're happy.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. And we've given a little bit of an insight into life at Tripledot.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.